the Chicago Bulls and Zach LaVine are exploring some trade options. They've come to some type of mutual agreement. They're both in the know that, hey, this is possible. We got some teams calling, and this is probably happening. And guess what? I couldn't be happier for Zach. Couldn't be happier for Zach. And in this video, we're going to break down why, honestly, I feel like this is the best move for him as an individual. Now, mind you, I'm a Bulls fan, but I do recognize talent. I do recognize someone who's maybe not in the best situation for what they bring to the table. And I do believe that Zach LaVine. At the same time, we're also going to start cooking a couple of people. We're going to start cooking Billy Donovan, and we're going to aptly cook Arturas Karnisovas, AK, whatever the heck the man's name is. I'm gonna be honest with you, because it's well deserved. Let's break that down right now. Don't worry about the intro. Skip the intro. You know what we get into. You know what you clicked on. Let's just roll right into this. Listen, with Billy Donovan and AK and the Chicago Bulls organization, realistically agreeing to this type of exploration of options, we're admitting the failure. They're admitting they failed. AK failed in this regard. I'm gonna explain to you why. Realistically, and I said this before, I said it when the trade happened, although I liked the trade, I liked what he did. It was necessary to some degree. It wasn't going to work if you didn't have the right pieces there. And that right piece was a point guard. If I'm Zach LaVine, I want to seek some options, because you know what? You didn't go out this offseason and get us a point guard. You got us another dude who under 6 feet who can shoot threes. Now, mind you, that is going to be improvement. That is something that the Bulls needed to do. They weren't a good 3-point shooting team. That is how you compete in today's modern NBA. That move, solid. I get why you did that. And Carter has proven to be someone who can do that. However, he is not the point guard that we needed to get these egos in check on times. Now, what I mean by egos, but realistically knowing where the ball should go at certain times, really executing that on a floor general's perspective, not necessarily saying that there's massive egos there. It may be behind closed doors, but you get what I'm saying for context. Anyway, AK didn't do that. In fact, he made very pedestrian, if not any moves that I would sit there and say was great. By the way, AK, who the heck are you drafting? That's a different topic for a different day. But we're going to keep going with this thought. AK failed in that regard. Didn't get the pieces necessary. You put the skeleton together, so to speak, but you didn't dress it up. There's no flesh and skin right here, baby. It's just bones. You put the bare bones material here, but there's nothing there. And the problem is, you did that. You sat there. You grab Carter, stuff like that, but you didn't keep Patrick Beverley. Someone who said, hey, dog, look, Zach, what you shoot? And you saw some of the best play from Zach LaVine that second half of the season. And the Bulls actually looked like they were a better, competent team. Yes, they did. Now, mind you, this is a Zach LaVine video. So I'm going to sit there and be a little selfish. From an individual standpoint, he looked much better. But it was clear who was getting the ball at certain times, who was taking certain shots, and that elevation was able to be expressed. And guess what? Zach LaVine lived up to it. His second half stats after they got Patrick Beverley are great. That's a $200+ million player in today's league, which, by the way, is a bargain for a lot of teams considering what his ability and capability is. That's another no. But AK didn't do anything to support that. That is accentuated. That blunder is accentuated by the simple fact that, again, you roll back with continuity, but some of these guys can't hoop. Not the way that you intended to. P. Will was supposed to be someone who was supposed to make this leap, this evolution, play well. I still don't see it. Now, one could argue getting rid of Zach LaVine, maybe moving around from a DeMar, would help this situation and help him develop. But guess what? You got drafted to be along the ride with Zach LaVine. You were never going to be the star. So you get in where you fit in, my boy, and you don't fit. I wonder if whether or not you are actually, like the $200 million conversation, Zach LaVine got to something. Ain't no way in God doggone heck that you thought you was worth $200+ million hooping like that. But guess what? That's not Zach LaVine's problem. That is actually an AK problem that impacts Zach LaVine. You blundered it. Kobe White's been a mainstay here. I get it. I get why you did it. But guess what? Kobe White is not a freaking point guard. He is a shooting guard, maybe a small forward in somebody's system. He's a scorer. He's a shoot first, pass second. But I'm not saying he can't hoop. I'm not saying he's not an NBA player. What I'm saying is he doesn't fill the gap that you needed, but you made sure to pay him. You made sure to do all this other stuff, but you didn't get what you ultimately needed, and that was a freaking point guard. Now, I'm going to sit there and harp on this for a particular reason, because again, you saw what the Bulls look like, and now you're in a situation where you're pretty much divesting of assets because you didn't go out there and get the pieces you needed. This is not a Zach LaVine issue. This is not a Zach LaVine pouting issue. This is a AK didn't do his job. He got the wrong people in place. You drafted the wrong people, and now we got people who don't want to be here. That's on you, my boy. That's a you problem. On top of that, we've wrote with Billy Donovan doing this thing. I'm going to tell you why that's a problem, because it don't seem like it's working well. Now, I will say this. Systems work. Or rather, systems don't work. People work systems. That's the quote. Systems don't work. People work systems. There is a system that Billy Donovan has. If the people don't buy into it, then you have to make a decision. Either you remove the person trying to implement the system and you get someone who people buy into, or you make some changes and allow those who have bought into it to do what they need to do. Right? In this case, it seems like Billy Donovan is going to be there. And that may or may not be the case. I don't believe that Billy Donovan is going to be there if we continue to take L's, if we continue to have a mid season. I do believe that they will fire him. I don't believe this is the Bulls of old. I don't believe that we're in that day and age where you're just going to ride out with this GM or this coach for X amount of years because you paid them. Those days are done. Now, my co-host at Pat, the designer of Windy City Breeze, might disagree. That's fair. That's his right. He can't disagree. He's seen the Chicago Bulls do that. He's seen the Chicago White Sox do the same ownership, by the way. He's seen this here. I think we're in a new age. However, what I do believe is too much riding with continuity with people who are not getting the best out of the talent you have there, the core group. You don't sit there and try to force feed a system. You move them out. So, AK, that is on you because no one has really bought into that system. And it's been talked about. We've seen interviews of other players and stuff like that. And guess what? While it was better than what Zach had, it doesn't mean that it's exactly what he needs to take the leap that he is trying to make as a star here. I do believe that Zach has the talent and the ability to be a top 5 shooting guard in this league. If he's not already a top 5 shooting guard, but I do, he has the ability. I do believe it. But the situation has to play out the same. The situation has to play out right. And you have to have people who can coexist with each other. Just because you picked up DeMar DeRozan, who, by the way, is another 2 guard who does exactly what Zach LaVine does. Another 2 guard who does exactly what Zach LaVine does. Now, you may say Zach LaVine doesn't close out games like DeMar. I would not argue that. I would say that DeMar has been doing that for a good portion of his career. He absolutely deserves it. This is not a Zach is bad, DeMar is this. This is not trashing them. But what I am saying is, down the stretch, I do believe Zach felt like he earned the right to close out those games. And in my opinion, you owed him the right to have that ability and to develop in that way. Guess what? Winners of that caliber, people who take those shots, guess what? They get those opportunities continuously because they were put in those positions. The team trusted them, and even when they failed, they rallied behind them because you're our best player. You remove that from Zach LaVine by getting someone who does exactly what he does, who's also trying to revitalize his career. Again, this is not a DeMar DeRozan hate. I love DeMar. Love what he brings to the game. I do not believe he needs to come off somebody's bench and stuff like that. I do frankly believe, and I do have friends who share that thought process. This is no smoke for them, but I hate that thought process. It's stupid. DeMar doesn't need to come off anybody's bench. At 34, he's cooking just as much as he has. If and his age shouldn't even be a problem. He can hoop at a very, very high level. He's closing out games at a very, very high level. With that being said, Zach LaVine deserves that. He's been here. He's been through the Hoiberg stage. He deserves that opportunity. And I don't feel like he really got that opportunity here. And when you have that type of situation and that dynamic in that locker room, that could throw a player off. Everyone wants to sit there and do Kobe and Shaq and stuff like Kobe. Shaq did play two different positions, did two different things, and at a certain point, Kobe was closing out games because Shaq knew that's the closer. There is no Mike and Scotty here. Scotty could never do what Mike did. I do believe that Zach LaVine can do what DeMar does. I do believe he has that ability and he can develop into that. Scotty was never going to be Mike. So when people make these comparisons, and I'm only going based off what I've heard in the last hour or so, these stupid comparisons, stop it. There's a lot of growth that was stunted here by some decisions that didn't need to be made. Now, again, I like the moves. I do. I think they were necessary. When Zach was hurt, you needed someone to close out those games. You needed all of those particular things, but it wasn't something that works without a point guard. AK, you dropped the ball on this one. You dropped the ball on this one. I'm not someone who is of the ilk to say that Zach LaVine could not have done. Zach has had great moments here, not good, great moments here that were stunted by some ill-advised decisions and some roster moves that I still to this day don't understand. I don't understand Billy Donovan's lineup. It's never the same or consistent because he doesn't know what the heck he's doing at times. Yeah, I said that because guess what? You don't have to go far. It's just a YouTube search. Other NBA players kind of agree. What is happening right there? There's no consistency in that lineup. You'll never get anything to jail because there's no consistency there. And you're kind of manufacturing this inconsistent thing. And that's all being done under your nose. AK, this is on you. Now, this is a mutual thing, so I think AK could be doing the player a solid. AK is a player's GM. I have to give him credit for that. But I will say is this was one of those things where I really, really rooted for AK to make some moves this offseason, for us to roll with this and have a better season. Because I do believe the Bulls have the talent. I just don't believe the Bulls are being managed right. And if you're a Chicago Bulls fan, you probably feel the same way. So this is all about Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine has earned his contract. He plays at a high enough level. I think he's a very discontent and individual who, I mean, is starting to show more as of late than it ever has. I think he's checking out in that regard. I'm not saying that's the best thing to do from a professional standpoint, but I am saying I understand. And DeMar's doing the same. The only person that's really hooping right now is the person who got paid in the offseason. You know who that person was? Vooch. But Vooch has been doing that. He's been a double-double machine. He's been that guy. You all don't give him that credit, though. It's been a tough one, man. It's been real tough for me to make this particular video, but I want to hear your thoughts, man. You've heard my rant. I want to hear yours. Whether it's love, whether it's hate, you put it in the comments. I'll be in there with you. In fact, catch us on the Daily Show on the Woody City Breeze. I might have that link in the description there. Till next time, y'all. What the heck?